because they're being driven by leaders who care more about the sale than the conversation, than the learning experience that comes from being patient with somebody on the phone. Learn where to draw your lines, but understand that when somebody's telling you something about their personal life, they're giving you ammunition. I don't need that loan. Didn't you just tell me you bought a new Mercedes with $1,000 a month payment? If you don't listen, then you don't learn. And if you don't learn, then you don't sell right. Everybody's going to find a nut every once in a while, you know, but not everybody is going to consistently put up numbers that make a difference every single month, not every quarter or here and there, but every single month. Like our guys are expected to put up a certain level of production every month, not because we are overlords of this institution, but because we set up tools and training and guidance and give them every single resource that they need, not only hit that number, but to blow past that number in a really efficient manner. So it's all process, man. Sales is a process, and it's a never-ending journey of learning, because if one thing's certain, it's that every homeowner, consumer that you're going to talk to is going to be different and have a different problem, or at least a different perspective of their problem. And it's your job to meet them where they are, because until you meet them where they are, they cannot go to where you want them to be.
I always think of it too, like you're listening to them so you can figure out how your product actually solves their problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it doesn't, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. Like that's the other thing too. Like I feel like there's so many people that just want to, smash their head against a wall to be like, this could work. We can make this happen. It's like a bad relationship, just break up with them. See you later. Sorry, it didn't work out type of thing.
Exactly.
But you don't know that if you're too busy listening to your self-talk. You know what I mean?
That's right. That's right.
Speaking of, I'm about to be implementing some like pretty large scale outreach systems, Andrew, and I'm kind of nervous about it because I've got, quite a bit of back end framework stuff to do, but I just know it's gonna create some challenges, kind of like how your stuff has worked so well. You're like, well, what do we do with all these extras? Mm-hmm. I'm expecting some of that to happen. I ran a test run on 150. We did 150 inputs, and I got 2 immediate responses within like a week on some stuff, which is really good in the listing side,
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Got a listing appointment in a week of, doing what we were doing, and it's all at the price points I'm looking to target, and looks like it's going to turn into a listing here in the next like 2 months, which means I can do this at scale. So doing some
Paul, why don't you get your license in PA and Maryland, and then you can like co-list with people over here, and I can give you like some listings.
That'd be cool. I would do that.
Fuck yeah, dude! I would hands down, Paul.
As long as you're cool with it, as long as you're cool with me being remote, I would do that.
Paul, I'm down. If we can just spread the love around up here, that'd be fantastic.
Or you just get some of that Texas stuff you were talking about. There's some interesting stuff you were thinking about doing down here too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's a couple of things. We have to catch up on some stuff, just period. But
yeah.
But because the duplex stuff we're doing is going well. Like we're doing the math and it's going well. So I want to pick your brain.
Mathing, that's a good thing.
Yeah, there's good mathing happening. So
well, good. Well, let's catch up sometime. Next week and definitely chat.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's time. I need to now think about the PA stuff. Now you've added another thing.
I would feed you so many listings, and you wouldn't even ever have to see these properties.
Let's do it.
It's literally free money.
Like, dude, I listed 5 houses this past week and closed on 4 or 5. I can't even remember. I have to go back, and that's what I still have to do this afternoon is go
Are these your
reconcile
wholesale
everything from
stuff
this.
or what?
No, that's not wholesale.
Just
That's
your flip
just,
side.
yeah, we're buying the living shit out of land right now, like you wouldn't believe, Paul. I mean, if it's
Oh,
on the
really?
market, it's going to me.
So are you wholetailing it?
No, dude, we're okay. So long and short of it is there's some pretty obvious indicators out there that you see probably in your world too, Paul, and that are just common knowledge if you understand interest rates and market conditions and supply demand, which is
Yeah.
home prices, especially in the Northeast, because that's where I know most.
Right.
Home prices in the Northeast have been incredibly strong. They did not go up to the same capacity as the Southwest did
Right.
when so we got some very good appreciation, particularly on those 200,000 sub houses. You have $50,000 houses going to 150 in 2 years. However, most everything else, it went up, but it stayed pretty steady. So what we're basically thinking, Paul, is that as the Fed, whether that be 6 months, a year, whenever it is, we're not going to pretend to have a crystal ball.
Right.
But when the Fed does decide to do that first 25 basis point decrease, it's going to be a big test on the market, but they're going to at some point have to start dropping these rates, even if they're by 25 basis points.
No,
So our thought is
drop.
buy the land now because we're well capitalized, just sit on it.
Yeah.
And as we go build, but we know that our goal is basically to pick up 100 acres by the end of this year.
Yeah.
As developable, whether it be in 1 acre parcels or 5 acre, whatever it ends up being,
Yeah,
when
but you
100
get those
acres minimum.
tax breaks, like it's like limited holding costs for you.
Andrew, would you get the land as
I'm sorry, what was that?
Would you get the land as well? Your city, like stamp permits, more.
You broke up there again.
Let me read.
No, that's smart. I'm so pissed because it's literally my same strategy with my partner, but we're just like you and I had talked in the past. I'm just like 2 to 3 years behind you, so we're just trying to build the war chest up to that same point, and we're like scrambling for these next 2 years to just keep doing that, so we can just go sit on a bunch of stuff.
Mm-hmm. All right, absolutely. All right, Tyler, what you got?
Would you get the land entitled as well to get stamped approved permits to maybe sell it for more?
Yeah, so that's
without being entitled.
No, we would go in and improve all the land. At least get it, like you said, permitted, get the plans approved, or at least get everything that, if there's tie-ins that need to be done, get everything, the tie-in fee connected, all that stuff, and at least improve the land. So A, like you said, inherently that increases the value no matter what market you're in, and B, if and when we're ready to start building on it and catch these swings, we can go right in and start, foundation immediately.
Yeah. If you've got all your plans submitted, or at least your pre-platted.
I'd sell it with if you want to do like a subdivision, or if you want to split off into different APNs, I'd sell it with stamped approved permits. Like, this is what we went through geo, we went through water, we went through all this stuff.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know if it's on city water or whatnot. It might be on wells. Like, wells are, here's the GPM for the wells and all that shit.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I'm going to drop a link right now. We're looking at this piece right now. This would be our biggest land grab to date. We just started. We're not under contract, but we started. This one requires like a little bit of diligence before even contract is initiated.
Yeah. You got topos, you got everything on this guy. This is crazy for a fucking Zillow listing, dude.
Dude, it's nuts. Like, and this is right in our, this is in the heart of our area.
So, where are we zoned at? Just I'm not like going through this yet, but what is this going to be zoned for? Like mixed use stuff? Because you got that frontage right there.
Yeah, I mean, what we would ultimately be doing with it is just single family residential. That's what it's zoning district R1, single family residential.
Okay, you're R1, but do you think you could?
Which is the 100% move in that area.
You don't think that there would be like a desire to have some sort of retail strip somewhere tucked into that?
No, not so. No, Paul, not in this area. Like, there's Mechanicsburg is basically it's right in between Carlisle and Camp Hill, which is only about 25, 30 minutes from Harrisburg. So you've got three major, three decent sized cities, and then the big city right there. So people go to Mechanicsburg to get that suburban feel, but without being inundated with the way that a lot of commercial builders and large builders are kind of building these
Right.
communities. So they want a home away from home, basically, and
Yeah.
some peace.
Okay. So this is basically like come through our little township almost, and
Yes.
then go shopping at this other place that's a little bit down the way. Don't
Exactly.
stop on this highway, please.
Right. Exactly.
So then
Exactly.
the average price point over here is going to be pretty nice for you guys when the time comes.
Absolutely. It'd be really nice.
That's
We'd probably do, we got a lot of thinking to do on this one and diligence to do, like I said, but it's a very good price point for what it is. Like a really good one. So we're going to see. I mean, we're very aggressive right now. We want to pick it up. But this is frankly a place where, this is where I'm being tested, because it's one thing to do spec builds and do flips, and it's another thing to commit to buying a property like this one. We're ready for it as far as capitalized. We can sit on it, and we're undeniably not going to lose by buying it. But the diligence that comes with this is where it's being tested, asking the right questions. And we have a great team around us, but I still stay very involved. I could pass it off and I could just let other people deal with it, but I tend to like to be involved so I can learn in case that person's.
This is a type of deal with a solid LOI for, like, you could do a solid DD window on this LOI. Like this comes in with an LOI. So, I mean, have you submitted one already? Are you doing what, like 6 months?
Yeah, so we have submitted an LOI. We're going to go through a 4-month due diligence period on this property. And we initially wanted to go with 6, but they were like, well, we'd rather go with 3. And then we settled on 4 because so much has already been done. They thought 6 was too much.
Well, I mean, the topo and stuff is like nice to have. Like that's some nice stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they pushed a lot through. That'll be cool, man. That's the move. I like that. See, because like that's interesting that's where your head's at. Your head's at like, hey, I noticed that everything in the first-time home buyer entry-level market still moves. I need to bank up on this higher-end stuff because I think when interest rates drop, we'll go back to that a little bit. And where I'm at in my business I was like, man, first-time home buyers and entry-level stuff is just going to keep selling forever. I need to build up my war chest. I'm going to build those and focus on that. It's kind of been,
and there's nothing wrong with that.
No, it's just funny because it's like, I think you would be the next logical step for me. Like, it's just funny to see you actually being that 2 years ahead that we talked about, 3 years ahead that we had talked about, and just kind of like how my thought process would be during that same. Your head's where my head would be at, basically. I agree. I think it's a smart play.
And this is why I haven't been present a lot. I mean, we've really been like, we've basically put this plan to go land grab fully into motion about 2 weeks ago. And we've had some additional partners come in as far as private money lenders that have certainly boosted this campaign. But this is an exciting time because there's one thing I am certain of is that whenever interest rates start to go down, even if I don't develop this fucking land, it's going to be a mint. All of it is going to be a mint. So, even if I get, just say rates in 2-3 years, Paul, and I don't ever develop this tract, I just sit on it. And 2-3 years, this land, comes up and rates are at 5.5%, 5%. Dude, that land's going to sell for 1.1 to 1.2 million.
Right.
So kind of. Now I'm not so gung ho about this, and I'm saying that there's not risk involved. There's risk involved in everything. It's just we're positioned now where we're able to not only understand our risk but project our risk. and deal with those things because we've, injected so much of our own cash and retained so many of our earnings, just like really strong retention of earnings in our company, that now it's like, if we don't, I'd rather be wrong on this than miss this swing, because
Well,
this
it's
is
kind of
that
like
swing in our generation. I think that's going to be epic.
100%. And I think too, like it's one of those games I always kind of talk about with my business partner, right? Where it's like, okay, if we're wrong, like how wrong are we? Like, do we really lose that much if we're wrong? And how much do we gain if we're right?
Exactly.
I
It's all
don't think.
downside. I mean, running a business is truly, to its core, downside risk management. Like,
Right.
if you can just,
Yo. Yo. Joe John.
John Johnson.
Which finally is looking like a pretty solid top line on this exit for us for the duplex, with 2 more to go, and we are already set up to do 3 a quarter next year, and trying to secure funding to do 6 a quarter for the last half. So we're going to do 3 every quarter for the next year for sure, and then we're hoping to double that the last half of the year, do 6 a quarter the last half. We can do that, it's mint, but we have to get financing. So
that's see. Awesome, man. I'm telling you, Paul, like the ticket for us, what I've really found is that as far as financing goes, absolutely, positively, fuck the banks. The banks, we're over, we have too much capital into you, or there's all this like risk that comes along with concentration risk with lending you, $10 million or $5 million. And it's like, well, how many houses do you really expect me to build for $2 million? Like, right. Or $1 million. Like, I had a bank tell me the other day, I even submitted all of our financial statements, our current position, cash position, all of it, our leverage in our portfolio. We're only at like 62% in our portfolio. So I have a ton of equity, and sent them all of it. And they're like, well, because you've never worked with us before, and because of, concentration risk, we can only give you $1 million. And it's like, what the fuck? What am I going to do with $1 million? I'm not really like trying to just build 3 houses at one time right now. I was there not that long ago, but now I can go to private lenders and I can show them that same set of numbers and the same set of books. And those private lenders are like drooling. They're like, holy shit. Like, I've been lending to Mr. Flipper Joe over here, who always is asking for an extension, and you want to use my money? This is great. You can have it.
Right. And you're like, oh, sorry, we might pay a little earlier than expected.
Right.
Like, the construction schedule is actually better than we thought.
Right. So it's become a lot easier. So the banks are not like, we just don't work with them a whole lot anymore because they're just not able to. Granted, and I'm talking smaller banks. Like, we've built this business with small banks, and I will forever be grateful for the risks that they did take with us. But now that it's time to level up, we've kind of outgrown those relationships and need to have, better support, more flexible support. Like, I need a private lender who qualifies me based on me and my business one time and is willing to cut me a check and have it to me within, 48 to 72 hours when I need it, versus go through a 3-week process, have an appraiser pre-appraise what the property is going to be worth after we're done building it. Like, that takes too long for us at this point. So we're kind of navigating away from the banks and very, very much more heavily in the private money relationships.
Yeah, that's I'm kind of starting to lean that way too. I just didn't want to jump into it with private money right away. But at this point, it's just talk to whoever, right? And just kind of see. But yeah, banks are tightening up on stuff for sure. I think private.
They are. I mean, yeah. The banks right now, the banks cannot compete with the 1 year. They just can't compete with anything right now. So they're having a really hard time. And when the 10-year just, a week ago 2 weeks ago dipped up above that 4.25% level. I mean, that's bad news for banks. Bad news for banks because they're holding all this paper right now at 3%, 4% interest rates
Right.
on their balance sheets, and they can't compete with those rates. So when people come in to pull their money out of the banks, just any withdrawal right now of any sort of magnitude is not good for banks. Small banks in particular. Big banks will always be fine.
No, it's the regionals I'm worried about more than
That's
anything.
it. And they're the ones that build small business.
Yeah.
You know?
No, it's been a very interesting thing. But yeah, no, you're right, PDRE. It is raising private money is really helpful, which I was fortunate enough to just like out of the gate get some great relationships to the point where I was like, man, I need to build my business first before these guys, we start seriously talking with some of these guys. Because they were too big for my, they were too big for my world, for what we were doing. But now I think if we can get there next year, I think I'll be hopefully having similar good news to you, Andrew. Like we get these 12 duplexes done. That should be proof of concept enough. You know what I mean?
Paul, what if, let's explore this. Let's talk about this really in depth next week and more private. But I think we've touched on this a while back, which is if I could grab land where you are, could you build it?
I think I will have a definite answer for you on that front from a company perspective end of this year for sure. And then because we're just trying to figure out pain points in terms of capacities and where our crews are at with scale. I think personally we can do about 12 doors at a time if we're in the right spot, right? But there's some outliers and stuff that I got to just consider. But yeah, no, I was talking about that with my partner the other day. I was like, what if, like, because our bottleneck's land. That's our bottleneck. So yeah, we will chat because I know you've got your system that you were talking about, and that's something I've been thinking about in the back of my mind too. At least on even like a certain portion of them, like on the 6 that I'm talking about, right? Like if I'm wanting to do 3 and then get an additional 3, like what would that look like type of thing?
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. But yeah, the land's been tough.
The most fun part about building a ground up construction business is when you reach the point where you start to build like a pipeline where you have stuff to do 6 months out and you've got the contractors that, especially on the exclusivity side, we just are crushing it with these contractors because we've got them booked out for 9, 10, 11 months.
Yeah.
And they're like fucking happy as shit. And we get great deals because A, they're contractually exclusive with us, and B, we set rates. So we factor in some inflationary measures into what they will be paid. But overall, we basically get to project and have a fixed cost of work for the next year on our flips and particularly on ground up construction. On flip, it's more of a cost of the fixed cost is the labor cost, but on the ground up construction cost, it's a lot more than that because we know what it's going to cost us effectively on not just the labor side, but how we save the labor through partnerships and different sorts of relationships. That it's an incredible feeling, Paul, when you can look out and go, and there's certainly a few things that could come up in the market. Like, China's having a hell of a time right now over there in housing, and that could certainly spill over here into the States.
Right.
But with all that being said, if you can start to put together a pipeline where you can see 10 to 12 months down the road, I mean, even just 6 months down the road, it's an incredible feeling because it feels like not much can really get in the way of it outside of, I mean, it's hard to even say if the economy couldn't be in a tighter spot than it is right now as far as what consumer spending is allowing and all of these different factors, then how much worse could it really get? Because if things get any worse, they're going to have to drop rates back down quicker than they thought and inject more capital into. So it's like, they can't do that. because then they're
Right.
going to have to start from scratch.
Yeah, that's kind of been my thought process is like, if we can make money in this environment now, knowing that there's, it could get more restrictive if we look at employment numbers, right? If employment numbers would
Absolutely.
start becoming an issue. But at least on the bread and butter side that I was talking about, kind of that entry level price point, right? What's affordable, that type of thing.
Mhm.
That's why we chose kind of duplexes too. It's like I've got house hackers, investors. I think are always kind of dabble in that space too, right? It's kind of one of those safer
Yes.
things. And so
It's a great idea.
yeah, I just wanted to I knew. So we started this in 2020, right? It was when we really started doing this, and 2020 was hot. But I was looking at 2020 and I was like, this is not going to last. Like we're going to get restricted here pretty quick. So what can we start building and framing out now, knowing that if we get restricted and kind of bottlenecked by funding and banks and all that type of stuff, that we'll be okay. And so we chose that for kind of building the war chest with the goal to get land for some of the developments that you're talking about. I mean, we're really trying to get more into some more commercial, multifamily development. I just want to build a lot of doors. And we figured a lot of doors on one project sounds pretty cool rather than a lot of doors spread out through multiple projects, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
So
Yep.
we were like, that would be cool, but we can kind of control one at a time.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
I think it's great, Paul. I mean, we're working right now on that side of things as well, to build and hold. So, instead of, I've been doing a lot of research into buying established multi-units because I need to shake a little bit of cash. But overall, I'm like, what the hell would I buy somebody's multi-unit for when I can build this thing
Right.
brand new for what they're charging me for it used?
Right.
Why would I fucking do that? Time is one matter. There is the time variable involved in it. However, I already have enough doors where I'm not like that pressed to go out and buy multi-units right now at 7.5 to 8% interest rates.
Well, that was like my whole bummed part about this whole thing is like people have been like, dude, why aren't you doing build to rent? Why aren't you doing build to rent? Why aren't you doing build to rent? It's like, man, I would love to do build to rent, but it's not the perfect environment to do build to rent type stuff.
Especially if you're trying to build capital.
Right. Like I can recapture some of that, but it almost puts me in some cases in a net negative cash flow situation on some of these rentals.
Absolutely.
Which would be great, in 5 years from now, but not when I look at how my capital compounds on the sale versus the hold, it just makes way more sense to sell right now.
I agree, Paul.
If I was where you were at, I would change it up. Maybe I would start a project and do a multifamily and then have it, hopefully cross my fingers that the Fed's changing things by the end of the project. Right.
Sure.
Cool.
Yep. That's essentially what we're doing. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, like I said, it's like if I'm gonna pay a 7.5 to 8% rate either way, then I'd rather just have it new and have equity. I will have equity in these things immediately. So it's like if I build a $1 million, 20-unit property, just call it, then I know because of our build costs and the way that we control things, not only going to get good cash flows, not great cash flows at 7.5 or 8%, but I'll get okay cash flows. Right. But I'm going to have $200,000, $300,000 worth of equity in it.
That's exactly right.
So when those rates do drop, even if I barely make any money on the cash flows, I've got a multi-unit, I built it, I've got equity. When those rates drop and that value shoots to 1.5, and I can take out a loan for 5.5% on that extra. Now I'll probably pay down $100,000 or $50,000. I'll be able to pull out a fucking chunk.
Right.
And now it's good. Now we're everything's kosher. So that's where we are, but it's not super aggressive push. It's just we're going to try one. We're going to flirt with it for a little while.
Yeah.
What about building like a 12-unit building, renting them out for a while, and then selling them as condos?
I looked into that and thought about
Hmm.
doing like condoization and stuff. Um,
And I'm talking like a few years, like with this high interest rate environment, you get an interest only loan. Once 12 to 18 months pass, refinance into conventional stuff like that
yeah. So
while you're getting rents.
what I didn't want to do, because I thought about it, and then these are the things that made me not explore it further. So I don't have enough information to like truly say that I like looked into it, right? But let's say I build it and then I decide to condoize the property. Well, that now means that I have to go through like the HOA or condo association bylaw creation, all that type of stuff. And my other worry was like, okay, now as I'm selling it, do I have to worry about the warrantability on the financing side for the retail buyer? Like, is that
What
something
do
I
you
have
mean
to worry about?
warrantability?
Well, like on loans for like when you have a condo, what is it a warrantable condo? And sometimes
Oh,
that
I see.
creates
Like with
issues.
insurance. Like with
Right.
insurance. Yeah.
Right. And then having well, the warrantability, so like there's certain loans, right? And Andrew, you can tell me if I'm wrong on this because you did lending and I don't. But as far as I understand it with condos, you purchase a condo and if it's warrantable, then you can do things like FHA or whatever. You've got, conventional access. But then there's certain times when it's not warrantable that it makes it much more hard, like much more difficult to secure financing as a retail consumer when trying to purchase a
Mhm.
condo.
Yeah,
It
you're
is.
looking for that cash buyer if it's not
Right.
warrantable.
And so for me, like I was thinking about that because I was like, dude, that would be pretty sick. Like I wouldn't mind building apartments and making them condos. I could probably sell them higher as condos. But I was like, is it worth going through the headache of piecing them out one by one, firstly? And then if someone like Andrew were to come in and buy a whole floor, does that screw up the rest of the second floor? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like am I screwed now, or is there issues with the reserves? Some of the other things I've seen in underwriting on condo purchases are like, oh, the reserves in the
Yes.
condo association don't meet the requirements um, for this. The buyer has to put an additional 5% down. Like they can't do a 5% down conventional note. They have to go to 10% because the reserves weren't
Yep.
adequate.
Yeah.
And FHA, like most times, FHA won't even fund a loan. A, if they're, first of all, not FHA approved condos, but B, even sometimes there's FHA, you can get spot approvals. And spot approvals are a pain in the ass because oftentimes what you run into at the spot approval side is the things that Paul's talking about, which is reserve requirement issues. And, that there's one person in, there's 12 condos, but one owner owns 5 of them. And now there's concentration risk issues in there. There's all kinds of BS that they come up with in condos. So while they're great in certain areas, I think I'm with Paul. Like, I would have to have a team that I hire to just like be dedicated to dealing with everything that is and will be condos.
Yeah, I do think it's cool, and I definitely like. It's got to be lucrative, right? Because there's condos and all sorts of crazy vacation areas and all sorts of stuff. So why not? And I like the way like Tyler's thinking because honestly, I do
Mm-hmm.
see homeowners moving over to condos and townhomes. I think that's the new
Absolutely.
starter spot, right?
The
It
reason
is.
why I was bringing it up is because I was looking at your land proposition, your, what is it, 18 plots. And I was just looking a
Mm-hmm.
little bit to the west, and these look like 12, 13 unit condos that is
Mm-hmm.
part of an HOA. That probably one person owns this building, another person owns this building. If it's, let me see, if it's, is it for, yeah, it's for sale. Yeah. So there, I mean, depending on how many people own the condos, I mean, I've heard of people just buying a building and getting,
Mm-hmm.
let's say there's 12 units. 12 votes in the HOA or 24 votes in the HOA. So you essentially would hold a simple majority. If not, you would need they would need those 12 votes
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing.
Yep.
So yeah, that's what I was like, okay, I wonder if this would be, I don't have access to land data here, but I wonder if they would be zoned for like this area as well because it is next to a freeway. I don't know this market, but I do know that single family homes probably don't want to be next to a freeway. even though it is a toll road. That's just my thought. Those preliminary thoughts.
Sure.
So I was like, oh, okay, maybe you can put the condos here on the 18 lots. Plus, this looks like a river or something. Or some wetlands.
I think there was drainage that was accounted for on those plans for that parcel.
There was. Yep.
From what I saw.
Oh yeah, I see it. Yeah, I see it. Yeah,
that's cool though. So you're 18 acres, so you've got they've got that planned for acre lots, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, I thought for a second, I was like, acre lots. That's wild that's like your normal thing out where you work. I think
it is. It's crazy.
That's insane to me.
A 2-acre lot in Mechanicsburg right now, like it varies depending on the neighborhood, but they're going right now anywhere between like $170 to like $210,000 ish, depending on where you are. Like we bought 3 lots, but they were each like on different outskirts of Mechanicsburg a little bit, and they were one was like 0.28 acres, one was like 0.33, one was like 0.4. And those lots we picked up, like average price for them was about like 48,000. But the crazy thing is the home prices are so strong there. They're just absolutely strong.
how's the rental there?
Oh, it's great. That's where we have a lot of our rental properties. It's in the Mechanicsburg, Carlisle, Camp Hill area, like just in central PA, and it's great. And we've seen a massive, massive, massive boom in. So most of our rental properties are 2-bed, 1.5 bathroom units. Mostly like duplexes and triplexes. 2-bed, 1.5 baths. Keep everything really simple. Don't invite any families. Invite beginner families, single people, couples, things of that nature. So what we've seen though is, in Carlisle, for instance, just call it like 2 years ago, you were getting about $600 or so for one of those units. Dude, we're like getting like $1,300-$1,400 for these units now. And so that's what we're really focused on up there. Is the rental market's fantastic, especially for 2-bed, 1.5 baths, because it's kind of not a lot of the rental availability where we are 3-bed, 2-bath. And that's great for a certain market, a certain demographic of renters. But we try to cater to a different demographic of renters, which is the people that are newer families, younger people, young professionals who don't quite have enough to buy a house yet, make enough but don't want to spend $1,800 a month. But they understand that 2-bed, 1.5 bath, about 900 square feet is enough space for them. And it's been working out really well for us.
What is in what is the name? Hoagstown? No, not Hoagstown. What's the Mechanicsburg? What kind of benefits or amenities that people want to go to Mechanicsburg for?
So Mechanicsburg is largely what attracts people to Mechanicsburg are the people that work in Harrisburg but do not want to live in Harrisburg. So you get a lot of what Harrisburg produces spills into Mechanicsburg. There's Camp Hill, which is right on the other side of Susquehanna from Harrisburg. And Camp Hill it's tough to get into Camp Hill, especially if you're looking for that, $600,000 to $800,000 house. They're there, but they don't come up very frequently. So the next best place to go is Mechanicsburg, which is about 15 minutes down the road from Camp Hill, and I would say about 25 to 35 minutes, depending on traffic, from Harrisburg. But then, of course, you have all types of commerce that occurs in Mechanicsburg. There's plenty of jobs. You got the turnpike and the highway that runs right up beside it. So it's a huge commuter kind of centered place there in central Pennsylvania that just attracts people, whether they're commuting north, south, east, or west. Mechanicsburg just seems to be that hub for that ideal like suburban family.
Yeah, I see what you mean. looking at Keel Drive in
Yeah, Lemoyne.
Lemoyne, Pennsylvania. Jesus,
Mm-hmm.
$900K for 3,700 square feet.
Mm-hmm. So what we're doing with our construction is we're building houses that are going for about between like $400,000 to $500,000, about 1,600, 1,700 square feet max, 2-car garage, full basement, single family ranchers. And the reason we're doing that is you got your people that qualify for a $500,000 loan and they'll spend every single penny of it. Paul's seen it. And then you've got people who are qualified for $750,000 or $600,000, but they don't want to spend it all. They want to be a little bit more practical and get that $700,000 house when the rates are lower. So we're trying to pin together both the people that are qualified up to 500 and the people that are qualified above 500 to come in and compete on these houses. We're taking practical people versus unpractical people and kind of pitting them together at that price point there in Mechanicsburg and Carlisle and around those areas.
Regarding the development aspect for, let's say, a single family home, do you think that it would be worth more, like a home would be worth more if it's on like a level lot as opposed to a grade, like a upwards grade or downwards grade, whatever it might be? Mostly because I
Under
worry
normal
about
market
snow.
under normal market conditions, yes. Under these current market conditions with supply issues like we're having, no. A house is a house. And if it's new, it's new.
Hmm.
That's what we're seeing, at least in our area. There's a lot less of an ability for people to be overly selective. When there were rates for 2, 3, 4%, you had people that were able to just be really picky about what they wanted because now they qualified for $100,000 or $150,000 more in purchasing power. But now it's the exact opposite. People have to reel themselves back and be more practical about their approach and go, well, we know what we want, but what do we need? And that 1,600 square foot house really caters to the family with 2 or 3 kids, right? And it's enough for them now. And we provide a really great product. It's nothing's cheap about what we do. We're hardy siding on them, metal roofs on most of them. All of our homes get granite, custom cabinetry, hardwood floors throughout. So we build a really good product. And that's why we do that, so we can pull those borrowers right now qualified at 600 down to 450 to come get our house.
Okay. Well, hey, I have to go. I'm going to go eat my first
Likewise.
big dinner because I worked out for 365 days straight. So I'm going to reward myself with a big ass dinner now. That's a little goal I had. So I'll see you later. But yeah, hey, Andrew, hit me up this week. I'll be around for Coffee with Closers, I think. So.
All right. Sounds good, guys. Hey, good talking to you, Tyler. See everybody. Have a good weekend.
I actually have one more question for you, Andrew.
What's up?
Let me share my screen quick. So this is kind of like my area that I work in. I'm wondering, like, in specific areas, how come, like, on the East Coast, they don't do homes with like these kind of finishes? I'm just curious. Like, I've seen the finishes be very different from West Coast to East Coast. And you coming from you being a developer, a builder, finishes like this are very common here on the West Coast. I don't see it too common on the East Coast. Why? Like the quartzite countertop, that kind of stuff.
Well, I would say the biggest underlying reason is just cultural differences. Different exposure to everything from media, down to just architecture that was pre-existing in certain places. Generally the West Coast, if you don't include New York City, generally the West Coast has always been known to be more ritzy and to have better taste. That's where they found the gold, for the love of God. So the West Coast has always been known for being more tasteful, but then you go to New York City and you look around, you will see these types of kind of finishes in New York City. So you're not going to see them as prevalently on the East Coast because I think culturally there's just a difference in taste and style. The East Coast, outside of your major city hubs, is known for being a very, very rural environment. So people are more into the rustic approach, if you will, like the stuff like that. Now, what I'll tell you is I'll send you some pictures of our builds. Our builds look very much like this. We bring that West Coast type of style over to the East Coast, and that's why we're pulling these buyers from 600,000 down to 450, because our houses are done so tastefully that they're like, man, you don't get this type of product over here. It looks like an interior designer touches our houses, and they have, but it's not like we go super gung-ho. It's really just a matter of just a few architectural changes and some thought to the finishes that you're putting into the property.
So it's more like this.
Yes, you'll see a lot more of the stone stuff. This is like an overkill example, but yes, that's more.
Oh, this is
that definitely is more symbolic.
This is 3,600 acres.
That's what I'm talking about, dude.
You fucking are buying a valley. You're buying the valley.
That is fucking insane. Where is that?
It's in Ojai, Santa Paula Road.
That's insane.
Yeah, you're buying a valley, which I thought this was really cool because I was looking at like the lots. Here, let me pull it up. I'll show you something. I was looking up this on the MLS. Let's see. Let's see. 8-3. Interesting. It's not coming up. Here it is. Yeah, so you have pretty much all of these properties right here. Yeah, right here, 65 million. So you have this
Got
one.
it.
Let me see if there's a report on this. 12 million square feet. Yeah, you're buying all of this plus in the hills as well.
That's nuts. That's insanity. One day, maybe.
Here we go. Here's the realist tax for the property. That's not the property line. Says 63 APNs.
Jeez Louise. So it's broken up pretty good.
Yeah, but I was just curious about the finishes specifically.
Yeah, well, that's pretty much what I think it is. Hey, what's up? I've got to run, unfortunately.
No worries, man. Hey, I
but
just wanted to let
I
you know
will.
that I appreciate you for coming on and sharing so much. I really do. And I just want to wish you have a fantastic Friday and rest of your weekend, man.
Hey, brother. Right back at you, John. Always a pleasure. And Tyler, hey, it was good chatting with you today.
Yeah.
John, hit me up, anytime. Let's talk next week and continue our conversation.
Absolutely. I'll definitely have something to actually bring to you this time.
All right. Sounds great, John.
Thank you, Andrew.
Hey,
See ya.
Andre isn't here. Where's my brother?
Oh, you two are brothers?
Yeah, he's also an agent.
Ah, look at that. Look at that. Look at that. We got brothers in here. Are you guys twins?
Yep.
Dude, oh my gosh. I swear, dude, when you sent me your Zillow, I was like, yo, I swear I seen this guy before. But I knew it wasn't
Yeah, we're
Andre.
identical. Yeah, we're identical
Wow.
twins.
Dude, we have two sets of identical twins in the Discord. We've got Andre and Tyler, and we've got David and Simon.
Do we sound alike?
I don't know, do we?
Wow. That's
I
crazy.
swear it's not a soundboard. Yeah, we tag team deals. Currently, I just got into escrow with one of my commercial buildings just an hour ago.
Congratulations.
Hell yeah.
That is fantastic. We just
I'm
locked it up.
actually, yeah, I just locked it up in escrow, but like, bro, um, the commercial is fucking expensive, bro. Like, this has been, it's kind of a pain point because it's been on the market for 340 days, and I've spent over like $15,000 in marketing this bitch.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'm pretty happy it finally goes into escrow. So I'm kind of emotional right now.
Congratulations, man.
Yo, you missed it. John was closing deals earlier.
Dude, I've seen John close deals since I was like 10.
Appreciate it. I'm actually uploading a deal right now. Savion, if you're in the audience, let me see if we can get Savion in the audience. Oh, one second. Hello, hello.
I saw your comment. Only $18,000 per acre.
Yeah.
Let me name this property real quick.
But the problem is you need to buy all 3,600 acres. Daywalker's got a commercial question.
Yeah, I see.
Uh,
Yes, it is a KCMO deal. Dude, we gotta definitely introduce you two to David and Simon. So do you mostly do the retail side of stuff for commercial and residential?
Retail, like retail establishments? Yeah, I mostly
oh, no,
do
no.
retail.
Retail versus wholesale.
Oh,
Retail
oh.
like MLS listing stuff.
Yeah, that's retail.
Retail. Cool.
Andre. Andre.
Well, huh?
He asked you a question.
I'm sorry. What did you say, John? I'm listening now.
I was just asking if you guys were on the retail side of things in terms of real estate.
Yes. Yes, we deal directly with uh buyers, and mostly other agents actually.
Cool.
Sometimes we go straight to developers. I'm sure Tyler has disclosed that.
I haven't said anything about that.
Oh, okay.
I'm actually interested in the whole wholesaling aspect as well. Because it's like, yeah, okay, you got your license in Cali, but you can wholesale in Tennessee.
I think something that might interest you would be like the novation side of stuff, especially because you're both licensed, so you might be able to work together in terms of like listing each other's novations and then also being compensated for the referral. Like I think there's a lot of ways to monetize as an agent with novations. But at the same time, because it's not something I'm licensed to talk about, because I'm not a licensed agent, I don't know what type of liability having your license would open you up to in terms of a novation. I'm not sure. I'm not licensed.
That's interesting that you bring that up. I'm trying to think. That could be a. I mean, you can probably be pulled into court as an expert. So, you might not be licensed in one state, but you are licensed.
Jaywalker, it's a little bit too much for me to type. Um, but to give you my honest opinion, commercial real estate is it goes down to different levels. It's you can be on the top surface and just sell commercial real estate, but then you can start getting into the trenches and start doing deals directly with the buyers or the sellers for that matter. So, I mean, there are standard forms for commercial real estate, but most of the time it's sent as an LOI. Um, my journey in commercial real estate has been every day is a learning situation. And I look forward to it every single day. Like, let me give you an example. Let's say you have a property listed and a buyer comes in and, he wants you to use a portion of your commission or whatever. He wants to use you as a real estate broker. And you're going to probably double end the deal, but instead of taking the commission, you could probably buy a percentage of his business or a percentage of his development. You can work out a deal like that, and then you can get paid on the back end when he finishes his property or when he finishes his business or when he starts producing cash. It's just so different than straightforward residential. Residential's super easy. But commercial is just every day is a learning aspect, and that's my journey.
I think a lot of people encompass real estate as just being licensed,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah,
they
you
don't.
could do property
You,
management, you could do development, you could do obviously sales, you could do leasing. Did you know did you know that licensed real estate agents have the authority to buy and sell businesses on behalf of other people? You can actually talk to your licensed realtor if you want to sell your business to somebody. I have yet to do a business transaction, so
So if you're a licensed real estate agent, you can transact businesses as well, is what you're saying?
yeah. You can, if I wanted to sell REI Rev to somebody, you just, I don't know. I've never done it. I could do it. So I would have to really learn how to do it.
Nah, you couldn't do that.
I mean, you can sell Google.
Of course, you want to keep REI Rev, but I'm just giving an example.
Yeah,
If you had a mom and pop bar and the mom and pop bar wanted to be out, a licensed real estate agent can take that business and market it to someone else to purchase the business with the liquor license, with the assets and all that good stuff. Yeah, the way it's phrased is business opportunities.
um, John, I know we had a conversation yesterday. You said you were interested in the realtor side of things, and I'm curious, um, what kind of questions would you like to know?
I just kind of want to hear more about the realtor perspective, because all I know is wholesaling,
Mhm.
all I know is, real estate wholesaling. That's literally it. So I'm curious to know why somebody would become an agent, and I'd like to know, kind of how your experience as an agent has been and has served you, and just learn a little bit more about what the retail side of things really demands from someone.
Well, okay, since you are licensed, you do have a lot more liability than a wholesaler. Let's start off with that. Like, because you are considered an expert in the field under legal law, you could be an expert, which is essentially the definition of that is somebody that knows a little bit more than the standard person in a court of law. But we have a lot more requirements when it comes to disposing the liquidable asset everyone calls a house or property. People think it's illiquid, but in reality it really is a very liquidable asset. When we dispose of it or solve a problem, there are procedures, policies and procedures we're bound by state law to follow, specifically with disclosures, and even we have to do inspections of properties when we sell or buy, and we have to do a competent inspection of them. There's no being a broker and not going to the property. You can't do that. So that's why they kind of limit it to a state by state basis. Like, I mean, I don't even know if you can be licensed in multiple states.
He wants to know why be an agent when you could be a wholesaler, right? Did I get your did I understand you?
That's a great question too. Why would you be an agent versus just a wholesaler?
Well, because we have an unlimited amount of referrals we can refer out. So it's like if somebody from New Jersey or from Pennsylvania or whatnot asks me to take on a client, I can pay him a referral fee legally. And I can also receive referral fees as well from anyone in any state. Generally, with a wholesaler, that's not possible unless you do, some creative financing. And I mean, it's not something that it's all out in the open. It's like, oh well, Tyler recommended Andre in Nevada to buy a house with this person, and Andre can give me a referral fee, and I don't have to do any work for it. Also, we have unimpeded access to pretty much every aspect of someone's house. We got title stuff. We have tax stuff. We have names. We have addresses, previous addresses. I could look up Elon Musk right now, and I can find out where he lives. I can look up his previous addresses. I mean, I used to do that as a hobby with YouTubers, but that's a whole nother story. It's when it comes to being licensed versus wholesaling is great. It sounds like you're doing a very good job wholesaling, and I'm not here to shoot that down. I think wholesaling is needed for off market deals, but then you get the
Well, you're also helping people as well.
Correct.
Uh, you're solving a problem, John. People need money. You match seller with buyer. Boom, problem solved. Jay Walker, to answer your question, there's different ways to determine the sale price. Obviously, comps, use, but then also you could do income approach, which cash flows. Like, what is the cap rate of the area? There's also there's also one other way that I sometimes when brokers do cash flow income approach, they miss out on something super crucial, such as what is the highest and best use for the property, and does that make more money than the current rent that's coming in for a commercial building? Yeah.
Also, yeah, if you had a commercial property and you're accepting rents like below market rent, your property's going to be worth less on the open market retail side than if you just paid them to leave and you raised rents to market rate. You're not selling holes. John, I think the only reason why, I mean, if you're doing well in wholesaling, I think the only reason why you would get a license is just to refer deals out to other agents. Really.
That makes sense.
I mean, it's just another income stream.
Well, don't forget, you didn't even talk about the passive activity loss. Like,
Oh yeah, that's right. I
yeah,
completely forgot. You want to
with
explain
being
that?
okay. Are you familiar with the passive activity loss?
I'm not. What is that?
Okay. Let me pull up the IRS section just so I can get. I know exactly what it is. I just don't know the IRS section. Hold on. Yes, that's exactly what it is, Paul. Real estate professional designation. Um, you may be able to capitalize more so on. Let me get the section. It's IRS section. Publication 925. IRS. I'll actually send a screenshot for you guys. Here it is. I highlighted it for you so you guys can read this at your pleasure. Um, copy. No, licensees do allow for the passive activity loss. I do not think wholesalers do. You have to have fuck. A real property operation involves handling day-to-day operations of a trade or business relating to maintenance, occupancy of real property affecting its availability or functionality of
Yeah, but
direct or indirect user.
explain what it does.
So let's say, for example, you have a income, 1099 income from your real estate agent, from your real estate business. You can accelerate losses from previous years and apply it to any sort of good year, which is, let's see, like let's say if you have like a cost segregation for a building that you own, um, you can have that accelerated depreciation put on your tax return as a loss, and there's some sort of stipulation that, again, I'm not an accountant, so I don't know it entirely. I don't really think I should be speaking on it because I don't want to give you the wrong information, but I'm just pointing my
You're gonna have
finger.
to explain cost seg.
Uh,
Yeah, you're gonna have to explain the cost segregation.
okay. So cost segregations, it's essentially instead of a straight line depreciation for, let's say, a building or whatever, you can depreciate everything except for the land. You go and depreciate every little thing, like the microwave, the stove, everything. At a different uh, a different depreciation level. So you can essentially get more depreciation in the first few years of ownership, assuming that you have high income, than is if you were to take on that standard straight line depreciation. Hopefully, I explained it properly.
Yeah, so instead of like an X amount of number, you go through every little item and you depreciate it separately.
Yeah.
And so any sort of loss you can write off against your income on a good year.
I'll actually. Can I send a? Can I? Fuck. I gotta see if this is acceptable to send.
You hire a nerd to write a report that cost seg all your shit because it's time consuming and then you pay them.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, John, also what we can do as being licensed, we can also property manage for other people as well for a fee and just take 5% a flat fee or 10% rents every single month, and then give the rest to the owner if they want to hold true hands off approach. then we can do property management for people. You don't need to be licensed to manage your own property, but to manage other people's property, you do. What's up, Paul? I like your
Yeah, it's my face. It's my real face.
yeah.
Dun,
dun, dun,
but yeah, but
dun.
you'd have to want to be a property manager. That's
Yeah. I mean, some properties require like so little work. Like you just collect like $125 per door, and you're just dealing with a tenant twice a year.
Dude, I wouldn't want to deal with it. I'd rather go sling stuff or rep on landlord or tenant rep on the commercial side, or so many other nicer paychecks. I feel like. I mean, I guess on property management, it's a scale thing, right, and volume. But like,
But then it starts to overtake your life. I know that. I know that. I've been in property management for 6 years, and I'm like, I'm done.
so does that mean you do commercial like tenant rep now, or landlord rep now, or what?
I do commercial landlord reps
Okay.
for retail shopping centers.
Nice.
Yeah, so I oversee like 60 different tenants. I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but they're like grocery
Well,
stores like Vaughn's
Yeah, I
and
was gonna say
Kroger.
it's
And,
usually anchors. If you're
yeah,
telling me that number,
yeah.
that's cool.
I don't know about you guys, but 60 tenants, that's a lot of people.
It's a lot of people for one person in residential. Commercial, it's a little bit different because everything is usually taken on by the tenant in regards because it's mostly triple net. But I have to allocate cam expenses. So
You
you know,
have to explain triple net and cam to
oh
users
my.
here.
Yeah, no, everyone's learning. Everyone's learning.
Okay, so cam is common area maintenance. When you go to a shopping center, the every little part of the shopping center outside the doors of the tenants are taken place for because each tenant pays their pro rata share of the cam expenses, and so like for example, like Ralph's or the grocery stores doesn't just plant the plants. Every tenant puts their pro rata share to plant the plants. It's like,
Based on square footage?
yeah, it's just based on square footage. Definition of every other. Okay, so pro rata share is pro rata share is essentially the sum of the total leasable square footage of the building, divide that by the budgeted number for that line item. So if you have $5,000, or the total budget of the line item. So if you have like $5,000 a year or whatever, and then you have like a 500 square foot, you know, person that's renting the building, their pro rata share is going to be very low per month. It's going to go into a pool of money. So it's everybody's essentially weighted the same. Um, it's so much to really explain. Shit, I didn't.
Well,
Where
it's
was
pretty
I?
good.
Where was I?
You
I don't
you were
know.
talking about cam, and then I don't even know if we got to triple nets.
Yeah.
Triple net is net. It's NNN. You'll see that. That's when you see on a contract NNN lease. It means tenant pays property taxes. Tenant pays all maintenance costs related to their property, and then insurance. So it's essentially everything under the sun when it comes to taking care of the property. Usually under triple net leases, the landlord takes care of the roof and the load-bearing walls, exterior load-bearing walls. And then there's also then there's double net leases, and then there's gross modified. Then there's gross modified, which so double net is going to be insurance and maintenance, and then property tax is usually taken care of by the landlord. Gross modified is maintenance, insurance, and usually the tenant takes takes a percentage of the property tax increase. They pay the property tax increase
Oh, yeah.
over the base year property
Yes.
tax.
So a smart thing to do if you guys ever rent your own property is put in your lease that the tenant pays the increase in property taxes. So here in California, we only increase 2% per year on average of the property taxes. So what will happen is, let's say my property taxes are 10,000 a year, and then next year they're 12,000. I only pay the 10,000. The tenant pays the 2, and then the next year it's 14,000. The tenant pays the 4,000. I pay the 10, and then the next year it's 16,000. I
Okay,
only
we get
pay
it.
the 10. Yeah, it's like I only pay the property taxes as they were when the lease was signed. That's a very good aspect to put in your lease if you want to create a lease and manage your own property. And let's say your property gets reassessed. Guess what? You're
Uh,
still paying the
I agree, Paul. I agree. It's when you're doing any sort of commercial deals, you always want to talk to the broker or a real estate professional, because 99% of commercial is all about money. And if you I've actually seen leases where the tenant pays for everything. That because they decided to represent themselves, they signed a lease that the tenant takes care of the roofing maintenance, the tenant takes care of the structural building. It's um yeah, please talk to the experts when it comes to commercial. It's really people try to screw each other all the time,
Who
and
are the
brokers get
experts?
screwed.
Who are the experts when it comes
Uh
to commercial?
Either attorneys or real estate brokers.
Do you happen to know any attorneys or brokers that would be willing to come and chop it up with us here?
I do know a broker. Yeah, I know a lot of brokers, but I don't think any of them know how to use Discord except for not even our broker knows how to use Discord. I'm almost a broker. I have waiting for my classes or waiting for my test date. I'll be a broker in probably 2 months.
So, would you consider yourself to be an expert then?
With commercial, yes.
Fantastic.
Hands down with commercial, yes. Maybe not residential, but with commercial, yes. But attorneys? No, I don't know anybody that would be willing to come in here and give you legal advice, to be honest. Those, you know how attorneys are, John.
I've met a real good attorney before. I do know how most attorneys are, but I have met a real good attorney before. I don't know this attorney. I
Yeah.
remember, I was in a panic, man. I was in a panic, and I had no money, man. But I had gotten myself in a situation I needed legal counsel. And I remember I
Mhm.
called him up off of Google, and he gave me his legal advice. and
Yeah, so that's another good thing about being a real estate agent is you get free legal advice when it comes to real estate. You can call the association and you get touched in with an association licensed
attorney.
attorney, licensed attorney.
oh wow, so then you guys can make a call
Yeah.
right now and get any of
Yeah.
your questions answered right now,
As many as I want to.
as
I can call
many
I
as
have
you want.
and for as long as I want. It's not charged to me.
What?
Yep.
Yeah.
Is there
And but
anybody in the chat that has a question? A
well,
real
no,
estate
John,
related question?
oh, I'm sorry for cutting you off.
Sorry,
I was gonna say the attorney thing has to be about a specific deal. It can't be like, hey, I'm gonna call you up to chat you up.
interesting. But I'm sure there'd be a way, if somebody in here was in a sticky situation, for instance, and they did a JV with you, you would be able to ask any specific question, right?
It would have to be a transaction from the real estate agent. So, because prior to conversing with the attorney, you have to disclose the property address. If there's another broker involved on the opposing counsel, obviously your license number, and then they will talk to you. So 123 Main Street, they're going to say, what's the address? 123 Main Street. Okay, what's your license number? This is my license number. Is there an agent on the other side of the transaction? Yes. If there is, here's the license number. No. If not, what's your question?
No, it happens with residential as well. These brokerages, the attorneys for the brokerage also, they're for both commercial and residential, and they're basically on the forms that we do through escrow or prior to escrow, and what kind of situation we're in, and do we have an out, or can we keep the EMD, or do we have to give the EMD back, or this person fucked up signing here, this person did not. And quantum, I wanted to answer the quantum, what are the associations? So generally there's 3 associations. There's the National Association of Realtors. To call yourself a realtor, you must be part of it. And really, you can't get in. It's like a big boys club that everyone has to join. It's almost like a union, really, because you're not going to get all these benefits if you don't join an association. So you got the National Association, then you got your state association, and then you got your local association. So let me give you an example. So you have the National Association of Realtors, then you got the Las Vegas Association of Realtors, Nevada Association of Realtors, and then you got like the Las Vegas Association of Realtors. That's like a real estate agent in Nevada, in Las Vegas. You have
Wait,
three
I
associations.
think in Colorado, when you get your real estate license, you also become a broker. Am I wrong?
I don't know.
There's a couple places where they'll call it a broker license versus a salesperson license versus whatever. I think ultimately there's still some required sponsorship stuff, but there might be states that skip any type of requirement and you can go straight to broker. That could be.
I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised of that. Like you have to. It might be a harder real estate test than typical salesperson tests. So even though it takes months to wait, it's worth it in the end. And while you're waiting to get paid, can you still get paid doing residential? Oh, yes, you can. Yeah, you can work on any deal you want. I mean, I'm working on Andre's commercial deal right now, and he's working on my residential deal right now. He's repping the buyer. I'm repping the buyer for his commercial deal, and he's repping the buyer on my residential deal. Oh, did I misread the question, Andre?
I'm just responding to 600. Again, commercial real estate, they call it the big boys club for a reason. Commercial agents, I'm not allowed to talk bad about agents in general, but it's just a group of people, a group of brokers that just refuse to use the regional MLS. It's not the same MLS as you're thinking about with residential. They have to have their own proprietary MLS system that's CoStar, LoopNet. And just to have any sort of viewership on those commercial websites, you're looking minimum 500, $600 a month to market on those platforms. And that's not even including your membership to these programs either. Like just your commercial membership is another 500 a month. It does pay more, but that's because it costs more. Yes, I do. I'll send it to you right now.
Look at the value that people are receiving in the chat just based off of one conversation.
Man, level 4. That's you. Thank you. Thank you, John, for hosting us, though.
Thank you. Thank you for coming and joining us, both you and Tyler.
Mm-hmm.
Um, 600. I sent you a link. Real estate trainers. I'm not sponsored at all by them. This is just who I am using for my broker exam. I've passed all the exams now. I'm just waiting for the date from the state. But you can get your real estate license through real estate trainers, or first Tuesday. Let me get it for you right now. Um, or first Tuesday. You can get it through one of those two. It's 3 classes. It's going to cost you all in all, from beginning to end, including your membership fees with the association, about $1,000. Totally worth it. You'll then, I mean, it's okay if I'm posting links, right?
Sure.
Okay, cool.
As long
Yeah,
as they're
I mean,
safe, you know.
they are. I've used these both websites. It's up to you, 600. I'm not going to make the decision for you.
Yeah, I agree with Paul on that.
Yeah, me too, Paul.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many aspects of real estate that people just think it's selling and buying. It's not. You can be an advisor. Um, you could be property manager. You can be a developer. You can be landlord. Creepy analyst role. Does anyone have any questions? I'm just curious. Like I want to answer questions that anyone has. Andre, why you?
Hold
Oh,
on.
for for private lending, for loan and commercial. So for residential, I don't know about commercial. I don't deal with it. For residential, like if I'm listing something, I don't really worry about the lending aspect unless it's a seller carryback. Then then I have people I call lenders. I have the vice president of a few lending companies that I talk to, and I just send their information their way. I don't pretend to know lending. I do know some of the products out there, but I'm not a lender. Sometimes, Paul, we do something called like a 3-2-1 buy down or a 2-1 buy down. I know it's not a seller carry it back, but it's kind of close. Seller carryback would be like having a second on a property. In case anyone needs to know, it's like a seller. I'm selling a house to you, and you don't have enough money. So what I'll do is I will take out a second loan, second mortgage, or I'll be the second one on the title of your house to be paid next to your lender, and I'll essentially loan you the money, and you pay me interest for, let's say, 3 years, and then 3 years happens, and then you pay me off. So I don't accept all the money for selling the house. And instead, I give you a loan for the money that you can't qualify for with your first lender, and you just pay me interest every single year and then you pay it off at the end of 3 to 5 years or something. So
Oh,
that could,
Tracy's a broker or a loan originator.
so that's always an option. That's you could always do that. Like if you have somebody that you're dealing with, like, hey, are you willing to take out a second? And they might say yes. And essentially, like you could probably
Oh,
hold
he's
on.
gonna.
Hold on 1 second.
Incoming call. He really does his business.
Yeah, that's the curse of being in real estate. It's you can be at a Valentine's Day dinner, but you'll get a call from the escrow company demanding this document or else the escrow is canceling. And then you got to jump on your computer in the middle of dinner. What I like to say is I turned my 9 to 5 into 365.
Ooh. Real talk.
Yeah. You know how it is, John.
Real talk.
Hold on. I'm gonna send this to you, kiddo. This is live stream. Right, I just sent you something, kiddo. In the chat. Whoops. I didn't mean to leave. Whoops. I actually, kiddo, I just sent you something in the chat.
All right, I'm back. What was happening?
Just so you know, that goes on until about 7 a.m.
I'm just looking at the calls, the call log.
That's an everyday occurrence.
So I saw a question in. Oh yeah, it's all the same license. Yeah, Paul answered it. Paul, what do you mean about promissory noting post?
Sorry, I'm just gonna come up here really quick. So when you're doing seller carryback, if you were to do like a traditional seller carry on a resi loan, I'm assuming your first position lien is gonna be not super stoked about that when it comes to underwriting, right?
No, it's they will own the property if you default. Since you're the second one on title, whatever's left is what you get. So if nothing is left, then you're fucked.
Yeah, I've just on proposals where I've had potential seller carrybacks on a residential deal. Typically, the lender has had some sort of issue with a second position note even being attached to the property.
Probably
I don't know.
probably
That's
in the
something new to me.
bylaws
I've
that
never dealt
yeah,
with a lender having
yeah.
an issue with it.
Yeah,
Generally,
I've had a couple.
It's
yeah,
probably in
generally
the
if they're in the
bylaws.
first position, then they're fine with that.
Well, yeah,
So,
yeah.
So that was why I was suggesting the promissory note, because you're effectively closing. First position lien goes into effect, everything funds, yada yada, and then you've got a back end promissory note deal that just happens post close.
Yeah, you can do that, and you can probably reference an AFR rate and get a lower interest rate on that promissory note. So, if you guys don't know what the applicable federal rate is, something that the IRS I think it's the IRS posts every single month. It's updated every single month, and any sort of notes, it's normally below the typical interest what you would normally pay on a promissory note regularly, like with a car loan or whatnot. Look up AFR rates, and those are loans that you can take out with like friends, family, that kind of stuff. If you don't use the AFR rate and you go instead below that, it could be seen with the IRS as a gift. So that's why the applicable federal rate matters. If I give John $10,000, I have to charge him interest at the AFR rate. If I do not, then
Subject to
with the
subject
IRS
to
as a
credit,
gift, and I would have to pay taxes on it. Actually, let's say
subject to credit.
100,000, not 10, because that's below
Can
the
you hear me?
threshold of a gift.
Can you
So
hear me?
100,000, it would be seen as a
Hey,
gift, and I would have
Tyler.
to pay gift taxes. What's up?
Tyler, can you hear me?
Andre? He's speaking. I think.
No,
Okay,
I
hold
can't
on.
hear Andre.
Hold on, let me try to join in. How do I?
Let me.
I think he'll rejoin.
Oh,
Okay. The chat couldn't hear Andre either, apparently.
oh. Why could you hear him?
I'm not sure.
Okay, what about now?
Yeah, I can.
It's subject. You gotta also say it's subject to credit approval and credit risks because you have to run credit for the AFR.
Oh, yeah. No, you don't.
Well, AFR is just going to give you a baseline, and then it's going to go up from there based on the risk portfolio.
Well, yeah, but that's on the diligence of the person giving the loan. Like, do I trust John Johnson with 100K, and is he going to pay it back?
I see.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about if I trust him or not. It's a simple one-page form saying this is how much I. There's special requirements for the promissory note, but it's my risk tolerance.
I see.
The whole point of the AFR rate is to prevent the IRS from looking at your loan as a gift. Because you don't want to be in a situation where they're like, "Oh, you're gifting."
Oh,
John.
John, that actually reminds me. Tyler, Tyler really knows about trusts and everything. So if you ever have any questions about trusts or estates, like estate planning, he really knows his stuff on that front.
Oh man, that'd be great because eventually I'm gonna have to get that set up myself. So if it's not you who does it,
And
maybe you know somebody.
well, he
Oh, I'm
can't.
not
He
gonna.
can't
Oh,
legally.
I'm
He
not
can't
going to
legally
set
do
up
it.
a trust for you. I can give you pointers, but I'm not an attorney.
Oh
Yeah,
I
you
have
need to
12
talk to
trusts.
an attorney.
I have
But you
12
can go to an
trusts that I
attorney.
manage.
You can go to an attorney and be like, I want this trust and this trust, or he'll make you or help you understand it better.
yeah, I mean that's kind of the goal. I hope that that's everybody's goal in here is to set up a trust. Leave behind a legacy. For your loved ones, and have enough assets that the trust is really worth something long term.
Yeah, with there's ways with trust specifically to where you would set up a trust, you would pay taxes on the trust, but you're not the beneficiary of the trust. So you're essentially taking money out of your estate. If you're about to die of old age, you're taking money out of your estate. So when you pass away, you're not taxed. If it's past, what is the limit? 25 million now? $25 million married. Anything above and beyond that is uh oh, SEPTA. Okay. I don't want to hijack the room away from John. This is your room, John.
Hey, I just have a question. So, when you put a asset into a trust, does that mean that you essentially own the trust itself, or the trust owns the asset?
It depends. I mean, the trust owns the asset, but if it's a living trust, you and the living trust are separated, but you are the beneficiary of your own living trust as well. So you can make decisions on behalf of that living trust. Whether it depends also if
Okay,
it's
and
revocable or irrevocable.
Okay, and another question. So if you essentially want to later, whenever you are older, or just in the age that you want to rent your property out, and the property is in a living trust with no beneficiaries, but is that like, how does that work?
Well, you would want to put beneficiaries on the living trust. Um, it would be taxed with your social security number. I mean, what was your question exactly?
No, so I've heard over like interviews and just webinars that when you put a property or any asset into a trust, you don't get taxed.
It's going to
That's
depend on the trust.
Yeah, it depends on the
Yeah.
trust. And for instance, if you transferred your property into, like, let's say a house trust, that's just what we're going to call it. We're going to call it a house trust. You and those the beneficiaries and the trustees are different than you. You no longer own that house. You simply transferred it to another trust with other trustees in it, and so you no longer own that house. You
Does
just
that
have.
get a step up? Does that get a step up?
Let me think about that real quick.
So if you no longer own it, just like an irrevocable trust, does it get a step up in basis?
No, No, it's not, because you can put your you can put one of the executors of the trust as like your wife, and you have an unlimited gift allowance to your spouse. You can gift an unlimited amount of money to your spouse. Oh,
Oh
a
shit.
step up in basis. Okay, so when
Uh,
you die,
yeah.
when you die, and you give property to your living spouse, that property receives a step up in basis. You bought the house for $5. It's currently listed on the market for 100,000, or let's say it's worth 100,000, but you bought it for 5. If you sold it while you were alive for 100,000, you would have to pay taxes on $95,000 worth of gain. If you died and you transferred that property to your wife or husband,
You no longer have to pay taxes.
well,
If I'm
yes. I mean, the property gets stepped up to $100,000 or the at date of death value. So, depending on how long you've sold it
That's
for,
why. That's why if a family member dies and they have their property in a trust, it's ideal for you to immediately get an appraisal.
correct. Because
Yeah.
the IRS is going to look at what is the date of death value, not what you're selling it for. Now, within the first 12 months, if you get an appraisal done, or let's say you don't get an appraisal done, and you sell it within the first 12 months of somebody dying, that is the fair market value that the IRS will take, not the appraisal. That is the true value of the property. So if you're going to keep the property for longer than 2-3 years after your significant other dies, then get an appraisal.
PDRE, I understand what you're saying. Tyler deals with trusts every single day, like real life trusts for many different, many different.
I'm not pretending to be an
Yeah,
attorney.
exactly, exactly. So he's just giving you the firsthand experience from dealing with attorneys on these trusts. Like he's just giving you, instead of you talking to an attorney, he's just giving you like the idea. But if you want the more in-depth, and if it could work for you, you need to talk to an attorney.
And a state attorney. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not here to put together someone's estate plan. That's not my job. I'm not pretending to be an attorney.
Yeah, and you can't.
Oh yeah, I think it was more along the basics of the questions. Like, I don't know if it would be financially responsible. Now, everyone's situation is different, but I don't know if it's like, I don't know if you can just call up an attorney and say, "Hey, what's a living trust? What's a grantor trust? What's a what's a house trust? What's a marital trust?" Like they're gonna probably tell you, but they're gonna charge you for it. And I mean, but they're
Is
gonna look at.
Septa still in here? Did you answer his question? I feel like,
I think I did. Did I? I'm just
where do you
here.
go?
I think that they answered the question. They probably just popped off, man. But I know I gotta hop off. I gotta go to the gym. I don't want to die weak. I don't
That's
know if
fine.
anybody else here is down to stick around. Feel free. You know, just be mindful. You know of kind of what you promote in the room and that kind of stuff. Just be respectful. And I mean, feel free to stick around if you like.
All the time.
Let's get it.
All the time. Go down, don't die.
Well, I'm here for any other questions. I love answering questions. Do you have any questions before you leave, John?
Mm, why did you decide real estate was going to be the one thing you care about most?
I can answer that question on for myself. I liked a different day every day, and uh I like to talk to people. That's really what it's about. Is I like to talk to people, and I like a different thing every day.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, mine's a little bit more detailed. I personally like the aspect that properties, whether you're a wholesaler, realtor, just person that likes houses, let's say you don't do any of that, you gotta understand and look at the homes and understand that every house has a different story. Every house was built with a different thought, different needs in mind. And to understand why this wall was put here versus the other wall, and why this kitchen was done in this orientation versus the other orientation, why? Ask yourself why that question. I mean, you look at centennial homes like built in 1900, and you're like, why did it have like a false wall here? And you're like, oh man, this was like a speakeasy. Like this was probably put in the 20s when alcohol was illegal. Like every house has a story to it. And to me, that's awesome. That is so cool. It's almost like art. If anyone likes art, you look at homes on how different finishes and different things that are put together. Like, oh, I didn't know porcelain goes with leather or goes with this. Like, I didn't know that. And it's amazing just seeing what people do with their generally their most expensive asset. And it's truly like art. It's like 3D art. And that's one of the reasons why I really like it. It's not about the money for me. It really isn't. It's more along the lines of, why did you do this with your house as opposed to this or that? I want to know your story.
I love those answers. Those are both fantastic answers.
Yeah. And by the way, I mean, complimenting somebody on their house, regardless of how shitty it looks, is one of the best
Mhm.
compliments you can do.
Yeah.
Do not walk into someone's house and be like, I'm going to blow out this wall and blow out that wall and do this.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Yeah. Especially if you're meeting with the seller, do not walk into someone's house with a contractor, especially when the
Yeah.
seller's there, because it is very personal to them. And that's what real estate's about. It's a very, this is their home that you're thinking about just demolishing. Omar.
But yeah, then I'd keep that to a minimum when you're meeting, unless they hire you. They'd be like, yeah, I can rip
Yeah.
that out. You want a pool in your living room? I'll do it.
Load bearing chandelier.
Oh, yeah.
I want that. I want a load bearing chandelier.
Well, on that note, I'm going to head on out. I really do appreciate you both joining the community. I've seen a lot of positive feedback from everybody in here. I just want to say that I appreciate it. I'm gonna have to run to the gym, and hope that you guys have a great rest of the stream.
Thanks,
Yeah.
John.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody.
Have a good one,
Yeah.
John.
Come up and talk. Somebody come
Yeah,
up
if you
and
guys
talk.
want to come up and talk, raise your hand. We'll bring you up immediately. Yeah, Tracy, that's awesome. We taking ugly houses and turning something. Somebody, I remember seeing something in chat in the community chat here, asking how people get the ARV value, and it was either here or some other the other Discord or so, I don't know. My answer to that would be like, how do I find out the ARV value of a house? And I think back of what I did to kind of figure out what was needing to be done. And what I did was I went to old homes that were recently sold and flipped. I looked at flipped homes and I would compare what they did with the new flipped homes to what they bought it for. And I would look at, wow, I didn't realize that you could remove this wall, or I didn't realize that this whole area was wide open, and the finishes on this was awesome, and I didn't realize you can do this with that. And I mean, it's not out of the ordinary to ask somebody, hey, you know what, I'm just trying to gauge the quality of the materials. How much is like a countertop like this? Don't ask them about the remodel. Ask them for like, oh, how much does like the countertop like cost? Like, how much does something like that go for? And then on another house, going like, oh, how much does a wall to remove? How much does that normally go through? And that's kind of like how I like remember, or how I kind of gauge ARV. And when it comes to learning more about that, you just get it with experience. Communities that are forgotten. Yeah. So I don't have anything else. We'd like to answer some more questions. Anyone's got anything? If you want to come up, just raise your hand, and we'll bring you up. Yeah, there you go. Section 8.
Hey,
Oh,
how's it going?
yeah. What's up?
Hey, actually, I'm actually here listening to you guys. It's really overwhelming. It's a lot of positive information. I really appreciate it. And I just have a question for you, Tyler.
Sure.
Yeah, how long have you been doing real estate?
7 years. But my grandma mostly has been doing it for 30. So I was going to open houses and whatnot when I was a little kid.
Oh, so then that's how you got into it?
No, actually, I actually was in another career field. I'm not gonna say it. It was public service, and I just didn't like it, and so I wanted to get my license, and I got it, and came here, and I found an awesome community where, like, I learn about the other aspect of wholesaling, and it's been very interesting as well. But I got into it because I didn't think I would, but I did, and I got into it because I liked the stories with every other house.
Oh, okay. I guess both of our reasons are kind of different. I got into real estate, well, my uncle kind of dragged me into it, or I saw like his videos and I'm just learning off of them. And I really just like the connections that I can make with people and help people solve their problems.
Yeah, solving problems is something that more realtors need to look at. Like, even wholesalers, like, you're not in it for the money. You're in it to solve a problem. Because why are people selling their house? Why are people buying houses?
Well, look at what are they running away from and what are they running towards? Like, are they trying to get away from an abusive spouse and get into their own house? That's an example. Obviously, an extreme example, but it's just an example nonetheless.
Mm.
So you said you like solving problems, and you got dragged into it by, you said, your uncle.
Yes.
What does he do? And well, I don't want to ask him. I don't want to ask you that. What do you like about it?
I like that I can talk to a new person every day, learn their problems and see if I can solve them. They may not like what I can suggest or like what I can offer them, but I always say at least I try to, help them out.
Yeah,
And about my uncle, I can't really disclose that
I'm
much
not gonna ask you.
information
Yeah,
on Discord.
I don't want
Uh,
that. I don't want that.
yeah, I can't really talk about that, but
Yeah, I was like, nah, I don't want to know it. Don't even tell me anything about that. That was more of a
but yeah,
misspeak on my behalf. That was my fault.
yeah, no problem. Um, but yeah, it's kind of awesome to learn that, there's a community like this out here, and just for anybody to learn wholesaling terms or any type of creative finance, you have a lot of people on your side, and like we're all learning together, and you learn something new every single day.
Yeah, I agree with that. My rule of thumb that I've always kind of lived through is, you ever hear the term, you are the sum of the five close people you hang out with, or the five
Yes,
closest people you hang out with? You
yes.
Yeah, so surround yourself with people that are bigger and better than you. Remove ego from the whole aspect, and surround yourself with people that you look up to. Because every successful person has three things in common. Do you know what those are?
No, I don't.
They're goal oriented, they have a good positive self-image, and they're what's the third one? I keep forgetting the third one. Positive self-image, goal oriented, and they have a great sense of responsibility. Those are the three things that every successful person has in common.
Mm. That's some knowledge right there.
Yeah, it's insane. Like, when you boil it down, you're like, goal oriented. Okay. Do I have a positive self-image? Yeah, because nobody wants to be hanging around with Debbie Downer. Sorry if anyone's name is Debbie in here. That's not the point. Um, and do they have and are they a great sense of responsibility? Like, are you responsible for what you say? When you say it, are you going to do it? So yeah, that's what I wanted. Section 8. You guys know about Section 8? Do you like it? Pros
I don't
and
know.
cons.
I don't know anything about Section 8.
I don't know anything about Section 8. Isn't that like the stakes?
No, Section 8 is essentially
Affordable housing.
well, yeah, you have a promised rent that the tenant pays, and then the government
It's
pulls
become a
up.
big. It's become a big thing on social media recently to purchase properties and then get it qualified with Section 8.
The way I look at Section 8 is I think there are more cons than pros, really. I think the pros are definitely you get your guaranteed income, you get your guaranteed rents, but I think the cons to it kind of outweigh that. Some of the cons I think would be more how do you know the quality of this tenant?
Well,
If you
the tenant is not going to jeopardize Section 8
I'm not
expenses.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying about the environment. Let's say is this going to improve the neighbors? We're in LA, and so we have neighbors like right next to each other. You can look at someone brushing their teeth in the morning. So, I mean, is the quality of tenant something that you want to represent your product, which is your home? I think and I from with what I've read and what I've heard from other people that do have Section 8, it's a lot of uh hands-on attention. You almost have to go out with a date with you almost have to go out to a date with them every single week because something else is wrong. Like, oh, garbage disposal, this, that, blah, 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 blah. I think it's more of a headache and it's going to be less of a um
And also
hands-off approach.
it also doesn't work in a lot of places as well. Like especially on the West Coast, like Section 8 rental income is substantially lower compared to market rent. So
Yeah.
you based on an income approach on valuation or purchasing of a property, unless you put something like 70 or 80% of the already increased or the already expensive property in California down, you're not going to break even per month on your expenses and income.
Yeah, because what's our median home price now? Like 900,000?
In LA, it's like $900,000, which is very high.
That's the median?
Yeah,
Oh,
in
that's
Los Angeles.
crazy.
Los Angeles.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
So-
I learned that you need the right good property manager that does the right screening. Really important to go and see fleshly. They're in flesh. They're well, I don't know what you're saying. Really important to go and see fleshy their people look like. We'll
Their
give you
place.
I think what he means that, the good property manager to qualify these people, like if they want to stay
Nope.
like a longer time.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
True.
don't forget the property manager is going to take a piece of the rents.
True. Tracy, I know this sounds counterintuitive, but people on Section 8, they work really hard to get on that list, and they're not going to jeopardize themselves getting removed off of Section 8 by destroying your property. They're probably like, uh, I know a lot of people on Section 8, and that's how they think.
Well,
They're
it's
like,
actually in your right.
why would I go out and spend $3,000 a month on an apartment when I have a perfect opportunity here and spend $400 a month?
I knew
I
a
just
guy.
have,
I
yeah.
knew a guy that lived on the beach of Santa Monica in an apartment. He paid $20 for rent.
Yeah.
$20.
Well,
He'd go out and sell like a few cigarettes, and then he'd go in and pay his rent in cash. Oh yeah, invite.
it's actually pretty crazy.
Yeah, I know. I think
It's-
it increased
yeah.
to like $200 or something like that. But still,
Hi, Tracy.
you're muted.
Okay. Well, thank you for having
Oh,
me up here. I'm gonna
I'm
see
sorry.
Yeah,
I
man.
didn't.
You can stay up here as long as you want, Jay. What up, Tracy?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was talking with the mute button on. Thanks for inviting me up. The conversation's been great. I only jumped on maybe 30 minutes ago, but it's been awesome. I didn't get your guys' background. I think Tyler is a agent. But
Andre's my brother.
Andre's what?
My brother, he's also an agent.
Oh, cool.
Mhm.
Okay. Um, I just wanted to talk a little bit about my experience with Section 8. I
Nice.
originally didn't want to do Section 8 because I heard all the bad things. They tear up your house and you got to put a lot of money in it when they move out. And, they're not, they were stereotyping, but people stereotype people and say that, they never take care of your property because they're not used to having nice properties. Well, I found out a little different. I invest in New Orleans, and I've been investing in New Orleans since Katrina happened. And from that time up until probably 2 years ago, you get really, really good deals. And it's a great place for rental. They have a huge shortage. I mean, I know everywhere they do, but there they really have a huge shortage, and a lot of people rent there. And most of them are on Section 8. And in the screening part, I was saying that, some people worry about how they're going to treat their property. If you go and see how they're living, go at different times of the day to see how they're living, that will give you a great indication of how they're going to take care of your place. And that was, really key. And then the other thing is, the government, you're going to get that payment guaranteed every month. And like someone else already said that, they're not going to they're not going to do anything to mess up their voucher because they could get kicked out of the program. Um, the government comes and does an inspection every year, to see if there's, things that are wrong. And if, there's something, sometimes it's on the tenant to fix. Most of the time it is on the landlord to fix it. But and it depends on where you invest. But in New Orleans, let's say I was getting, 1,400 1,500 for a 3-bedroom. And on the market, if I put listed on the market, I'd only get about 13. So it's always a couple hundred over than what I would get for the market. And they have a lot of duplexes there, so I have duplexes, and the rent on one side would pay the whole mortgage. When Katrina happened, when COVID happened, most of my duplexes I would have a market renter and a Section 8 renter. So I was good with those properties there.
Did you have any?
So yeah, that's.
Did
Go
you
ahead.
have any I think they're called moratoriums for rent? Did you have people that the government or the state had said that it was okay for you to not pay rent, and did you have any problems with that?
Oh yeah, there was that going on, but not in New Orleans. That only happens if the person has filed for assistance. It wasn't like an automatic. If they were able to pay, they paid. I didn't have that issue in New Orleans at all. And I had that in other places like Newport News. I have a 5-unit there, and out of the 5 units, I had probably 3 people that couldn't pay, and I couldn't force them to pay.
Got it.
So yeah, it just depends on where.
Crypto is asking, how do you analyze those deals? I'm curious as well.
Oh, how do I analyze them? Well, I run my numbers based on what the market rents are. Whatever my end goal is or my strategy is, I always run it based on the market. And if I'm making money based on that, then it's going to be good for anything else. The Section 8 or midterm or short-term rental, because the market rate is going to be a little bit lower.
Oh,
So
that's smart. That's
yeah.
cool. I mean, and the Section 8's working out for you.
Yeah, it really is. And it's funny because the very first one I had did do some damage to the house. But I wasn't experienced. I didn't realize I needed to check this person out. I mean, that was, that's just one of the things that's not, 100% risk free. But she caused me to have to redo my hardwood floors, like, not take up the floors, but I had to redo the what's it called? It was real hardwood floors where you had to go and put the glaze over it. I had to redo that because they're kids, and I don't know what she had going on, but they really scratched them up really bad. We had to do a lot of deep cleaning and painting and stuff. So and she used the oven for a heat.
Oh wow.
So she was like, yeah, so that she was like the worst one. But after that, things have been,
How long was
pretty
she there
good.
for? How long was she there for?
She was there for a year, just a year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
You
it
know,
was a,
what was it like? You can't take wear and tear out of a security deposit, but you can take it off of damage. So
yes.
how's the security deposit work with Section 8?
So the government does not pay their security deposit. They pay it. And I've always asked for security deposit equal to what the monthly rent is. And they come up with it some kind of way because they know that they have to pay it.
I see.
So, yep.
Well, that's cool. I've learned a lot when it comes to Section 8. I don't deal with any Section 8, so that's very interesting. When it comes to repairs specifically, is there like a lot of repairs for your Section 8 tenants? Like, do they come in and ask for, the landlord to cover a few things, and is it on a ongoing basis?
Well, when they move in, it's already been inspected.
Mhm.
So when they move in, no one ever requests me to do anything different. I'm not obligated to, as long as, they've already signed me off on everything being good. When they come back in a year, Section 8 is the one that says, okay, this let me see examples. The window is stuck because it got painted, or the lock isn't working. Or I'm trying to think of some things that I got recently. A gate. I had a wooden gate up and the wind blew it off.
Oh wow.
They wanted me to fix that. I just removed it. I said, okay, we just won't have a gate. Because I didn't want to, at the time, didn't want to put the money into replacing. It wasn't a big deal. It wasn't a safety issue or anything. I put it there for, convenience. And so I removed it. Nothing really big. I had a problem with the microwave. There was a problem with the microwave, and that was on the tenant. She had broke the door or something like that. She had to pay for the new microwave that I had to purchase for her.
Mm.
So yeah, there's the other things is like your regular maintenance. Maybe there's a problem with the HVAC. I have to have somebody go in and do that. They'll call and say the HVAC isn't working. That's very common in New Orleans. It's like crazy because it's so hot there. Plumbing may have a plumbing issue that I have to go and fix. So, yeah.
Well, Crypto had a question. You there, Crypto?
Yeah, I'm here calling you guys from South America. I do dispositions and transaction coordinating at a wholesaling outfit, and we work quite a bit out in Kansas City, Jackson County. And basically, what I'm trying to do right now is I've got a few properties out here in South America that I'm thinking of selling, and been hearing a lot about Section 8, and yeah, just looking into different options, seeing if if it's something that is possible, feasible, looking into funding, that kind of thing. So Tracy, I really appreciate you coming out and giving your experience.
Oh yeah, no problem. And you want to make sure it's also in a tenant friendly. Any investment, you guys already know this, and make sure it's a tenant friendly state. But when you talk about Section 8, it could be a nightmare, even worse if it's not a tenant. I'm sorry, landlord friendly state. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
California's out.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're very friendly.
Another.
Yeah.
I'm in the DC area, DMV area, right? And I don't invest in DC. I would have liked to probably 5 or 6 years ago. But there's a guy here. His whole portfolio is Section 8. That's all he does. He goes into these neighborhoods and he buys these houses for, maybe $50,000. They're big 3-4 level houses. And let's say they'll have a 3 or 4 bedroom. He'll turn them into a 5 bedroom. Do the whole basement thing because normally they're not livable. And he makes at about 2 years ago, he was making about Section 8 was paying like $3,600 a month for those.
Wow.
And Yeah, and the thing was, people were like, "Why are you, putting all this money into these houses and making them this nice, and they're in these neighborhoods that are coming up, and putting Section 8 people in there." And he just said something that made so much sense. There are people too that want to live in a nice place. You hear stories about how, and I always ask this question too: Why are you moving? And it's stories like, well, the neighborhood I live in is shooting all the time. I'm afraid for my kids. I want my kids in a better neighborhood. I want them in a good school. And that's why I'm moving. And that Section 8 is paying the whole $3,500, and they move into these houses. And now I think he does a lot of his hands-on property management. But that's where I learned from him about the screening is really important. If he screens them really well, he doesn't have a problem with them. And he every year he sends them like gift cards, like if it's Mother's Day, he'll send them something. Christmas, he'll send them something. So he really takes care of them, and they take care of his property.
Yeah,
That's what he's
and
he's built his whole portfolio on.
that's awesome. And I mean, I hope I get to a level like that real soon. Let's see what happens. Tracy, I wanted to ask you, how long would it take, like, if I would close on a property, let's say it was rent ready already, how long does it take to get the whole inspection done and get tenants in there and get paid for the first time?
So the inspection from Section 8. So it really depends on where you are. I can only talk about the properties I have in New Orleans. They jump on it right away. What was taking a long time, what seemed like a long time for me, was to get everything approved. The voucher, like the tenant already has approved the voucher.
Yeah.
And once I say yes, I want to rent to this tenant, we do our lease agreement. I have to send that to her. I want to say social worker, but I send that to her. And this is when I've done it myself. I have a property manager now, but I send it to her. And it really depends on when she gets around to processing everything for this person and getting back to me. It's taken like 30 days before for her to do that. But once she does that, I get a call. Once she approves it, I get a call like the next week to set up the inspection, because it's a third party company that they use to do that. And in New Orleans, it is.
Oh, okay, I understand. So yeah, maybe factor in like 60 days or something like that would make sense.
Yeah, I would do that. Yep.
Okay, yeah, that's awesome. Man, I'm learning a lot. Thank you.
Great. Glad I could add some value here. This is good stuff.
For sure.
Well, I don't have anything else. I mean, unless anyone has any other questions about property and specifically, I don't really have anything else. It's been great. And I mean, this has been going on for, I bet John knows, probably since 7, 8 o'clock in the morning for me. I just joined around 11, 12 o'clock. So it's been a good time. So if anyone doesn't have any questions for me or Tracy, I'm probably going to wrap this up. It's been great. Yeah, my DMs are open. Just let me know. I can answer some questions, whatnot. I'd like to be of assistance to you guys. I'm here to help. Not doing it for the money or anything like that. I just want the knowledge. I want the knowledge that, real estate has been hidden behind since the boomers. That, you need to hire people to know exactly what to do. And I'm trying to take that knowledge that's been hidden throughout the last 40, 50 years and kind of put it out there. I don't claim to know everything. I'm not pretending to know everything. I just have, I would say, a good enough experience, because I do have 3 1099 jobs. I do work 3 1099 jobs. They're all real estate related, so they kind of go into each other and they come out. So I deal with coastal commissions, city councils, all of that stuff. So I mean, I have worked and currently do work for a developer that has developed multiple shopping centers. It's got 3 or 4 houses in Malibu. What kind of questions would you like in home development? I mean, when you're talking about developing a home, like going through the process of submitting plans and permits, or what kind of floor plans? What kind of question? What specifically? What up,
Well,
Paul?
let me ask you this real quick. Where are you located, Tyler?
Los Angeles.
Oh, okay.
What's up, Paul?
I'm just here for the question. Omar, you've asked this question a lot. That's why I'm up here. I'm wondering what you're wondering at this point.